Welcome back guys. In this video, we will be learning about a book named Thirukkural and its author named Thiruvalluvar. And was Thiruvalluvar a scientist as few people think about him to be? But before that, I am pretty much sure that most of you guys are not Tamilians and you may not even have heard of the book and the author. So, I shall explain you everything from the grassroots level. Thirukkural is a Tamil book which teaches you moral values in sentences or short couplets of 7 words each. Each of these couplets are called kurals. This book is divided into 133 chapters, each providing us words of wisdom about respect, dedication, hospitality, gratitude, not envying others, good friendships, peacefulness, etc., which are essential for happiness and success in life. Each of these chapters have 10 kurals in them, which result in 1330 kurals in total. This book is also translated into 41 languages including English, French, German, Latin, Chinese, Korean, Finnish, Swedish, etc., which makes it the most translated non-religious work in the world. Though the beauty of the words he used is lost in translations, the meaning he tries to convey remains intact. The book is otherwise known as Alagapad Humari, which means the Universal Book of Wisdom or the Universal Code of Conduct. The reason being, it has no relation with any caste, religion, language or worship method and talks completely about humanity, equality and things to follow to become a good human being. The book is completely beyond any caste and religion and has no racism, no casteism and no gender bias. Hence, it is universal and relatable to every single person on earth. Various literature experts have named this as the best book of the world that would pave path for a better life. I too strongly recommend every one of you to read the book in your comfortable language and follow what is given there. It is the only book you would require to become a good, happy and successful person in life. It was authored by Thiruvalluvar, who lived somewhere in the 4th century BCE to early 2nd century CE. Nobody knows who he exactly was, how he looked, when he lived, etc., and was a person built entirely based on assumptions. Even the images of him present online were made on assumption and based on the descriptions by his villagers and neighbors. We don't even know if his real name was Thiruvalluvar or not. The name might have been christened to him by common people. The reason why none knows about him was that he did not live a life of stardom during his era and lived just like a common person. One thing few might find interesting is that, during his era where people lived entirely eating only rice, Thiruvalluvar always sat with a bowl of water and a needle while eating. The reason was that, while eating, if a grain of rice falls down, he would use the needle to lift the grain, dip it in water to wash dirt off it and eat that. Yes, he did not waste even a single grain of rice. Also, he did not want his body to be cremated or burnt into ashes after he died. He wanted his body to be thrown to stray animals and scavenging birds. In other words, he wanted his body to satisfy the hunger of some animal. Now, let's see why few people consider him to be a scientist, as I had told in the beginning with the help of few examples. A few of his kurals have scientific words or scientifically approved facts which were discovered just a couple of centuries ago. But Thiruvalluvar had known them long ago. Let me elaborate them in detail. According to a recent study, it has been concluded that freshwater plants grow their stalks and roots depending on the depth of water. For example, if the plant grows in a shallow lake, it grows short stalks, whereas if the same plant grows in a deep lake, it develops long stalks. But this was known to Thiruvalluvar 2000 years ago. In one of his Thirukkural, he says,
தொட்டனை தூரும் மணக்கே நீ மாந்தர்க்கு கற்றனை தூரும் அறிவு.
This literally means that, just like how the length of the stalk of water plants is proportional to the depth of the water, the greatness of a man is proportional to his thoughts. That is, a person with a selfless and generous mind is much more powerful than the one with a selfish and egocentric attitude. Thiruvalluvar himself has mentioned about the relation between the depth of water and the length of the stalks over 2 millenniums ago, which was told by scientists just in the last decade. Next, we all know that the world had been believing in the geocentric theory for a long period of time. It meant that the Earth was at the center of the solar system and all other planets along with the Sun revolved the Earth. even when people like Copernicus, who opposed the geocentric theory and stated that the sun was at the center of the solar system, were executed by the church as late as 16th century. But at an era when the world was just developing papyrus paper, Thiruvalluvar had told,
சுழன்றும் ஏற்பின்னது உலகம் அதனால் உழந்தும் உழவே தலை.
This is primarily related to agriculture, yet says no matter how the world revolves and times change, the fate of mankind is dependent entirely on the farmer. This shows a depiction of heliocentric theory. The third one is,
பிறர்க்கின்னா முற்பகல் செய்யின் தமக்கின்னா பிற்பகல் தாமே வரும்,
which is a simplified version of Newton's third law of motion, which is also used to derive the law of conservation of linear momentum. He has written something about modern agriculture on doing cultivation without using even manure, not advocating the fertilizers and manures thousands of years ago. He says,
தொட்டிப்புழுதி கப்சா உனக்கின் பிடித்தெருவும் வேண்டாது சாலப்படும்,
which means that if the land is dried so as to reduce 1 ounce of earth to a quarter, it will grow plentifully even without a handful of manure. This technique is being used in recent times by agricultural engineers to grow a lot of green and healthy crops. Next, in a curl of his read as,
சமன் செய்து சீர்தூக்கும் கோல் போல் அமைந்தொருபால் கோடாமை சான்றோர் கனி.
He speaks about the physics of center of gravity, weight shift and equilibrium of scales. The curl means that, the two arms of a balance although tilted, the lines of action of the upward reaction forces from both supports must be equidistant from the center of gravity, hence the forces on both supports should be equal, so that there is no net rotational moment. So, both supports should bear 50% of the weight, regardless of angle of incline. Likewise, a person must not favor one thing or person and remain impartial to the other. This speaks about his knowledge of physics. Next, we might remember Albert Einstein's words on relativity. Gravitation cannot be held responsible for people falling in love. How on earth can you explain in terms of chemistry and physics so important a biological phenomenon as first love? Put your hand on a stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with that special girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That is relativity. The same thing has been told by Thiruvalluvar in the 1269th Kuril. As for those who are counting days for the final return of the beloved so long away, a single day will drag on like 7. There is also a mention of how a shadow is cast by an opaque objects, the regions of umbra and penumbra and the vibration of air jets due to internal pressure difference flute. He has also written an entire chapter on medicine. The second chapter based on the importance of rain, Von Sirapu, contains some interesting ecological facts. Apart from these, there are several other stuff hidden in it. Now that we know all this, let's answer the question if he is a scientist or not. He wasn't. He did not study the motion, behavior or chronology of anything found in nature. Hence, he cannot be classified as a scientist. But he was a common man with knowledge of these stuff. Such stuff were passed through generations before eventually reaching the ears of Thiruvalluvar. That being said, I would like to end the video with one of my favorite curls of his, which is the 26th one in his book.
செயற்கரிய செய்வார் பெரியர் சிறியர் செயற்கரிய செய்கலாதார்.
This means what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary is their determination and courage to do the seemingly impossible. With this thought and the request for you to read the book in your desired language, I would like to end this video. I will see you in another video. Till then, goodbye.